Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. The slap echoed through the hall. The slap came so fast, so loud, that the hallway froze mid-breath. Miss Rhea's cheeks stung red, her hair clung to her face from the sheer force. The only sound was the sharp echo fading off the school's tiled walls and the faint hum of the faulty overhead light flickering above. She didn't move, not yet. Behind her, 4 girls in uniform, Sasha, Lila, Miriam, and Kastudwa, died, their cruelty hanging in the air like smoke after a firework. Sasha, the leader, still had her palm raised, as if stunned by her own action. "She thinks she's somebody now," Sasha said, louder, her voice shaking just enough to give her away. "Just because she graduated 2 months ago and got posted here, Miss Rhea," she sneered, "doesn't even sound like a real teacher." Lila chuckled, then coughed to hide it. No one moved. Not the janitor sweeping just around the corner. Not the boy standing frozen by the water cooler, eyes wide. Not even Rhea, until she blinked. One slow blink, and then she smiled. It wasn't the kind of smile that says, "I'm okay." It was the kind that says, "You just started something you won't survive." 3 hours earlier, Rhea had stepped into Eastbridge High with nothing but a folder in her hand and fire in her chest. She'd walked these halls as a student 6 years ago, bookish, silent. She used to cry in the bathroom after lunch. No one knew her then. No one helped her. They mocked her clothes. They scribbled "mute girl" on her locker. And now, she was back, not as a student, as Miss Rhea Zaman, newly appointed English teacher, assigned by the city's education board. Her first class had gone smoothly, surprisingly. A few whispers, a few chuckles. The usual challenges. She expected resistance. What she hadn't expected was the same girls who had bullied her back then, now standing before her as seniors. Sashay, the golden girl. Lilatha, fake smile expert. Miriam, the silent enforcer. Kaitha, look-the-way loyalist. Rhea had done her homework. She'd read the discipline files. She knew the school's dark little secrets, the fake grade swaps, the stolen phones, the vaping incidents covered up, all traced back to those girls. The administration was weak. The principal was days from retirement, and Rhea had returned with a reason deeper than just a job. She wasn't here to teach. She was here to settle the score, and to do it in a way they'd never forget. The slap wasn't the worst part. It was what followed. "Don't come to our class tomorrow," Sasha hissed, stepping closer. "You're just a low-grade teacher from the gutter. Nobody wants you here." Rhea's smile didn't fade. Instead, she leaned in, her voice like glass slicing through velvet. "Are you done?" Sasha flinched. "Just barely." But Rhea saw it. "Because I'm just getting started," she said. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She turned her back on them like they were dust and walked straight to the staff room. And what she did next would change the entire school. 30 minutes later, chaos erupted. The school loudspeaker buzzed to life during 4th period. It wasn't the principal's voice. It was hers. "Good afternoon, students," Rhea said calmly. "This is Miss Seaman. I'd like to invite a few of you to the auditorium. Sasha Khan, Leela Bryce, Miriam Shaw, and Kayla Singh. The rest of you, stay tuned." Gasps erupted in classrooms. The 4 girls looked at each other in disbelief. "What the hell is she doing?" Lila whispered. "What is this? A joke?" Kay said, but her voice trembled. They were escorted by 2 assistant teachers down the hall as whispers followed them like shadows. They entered the auditorium and found Rhea standing alone on the stage. Behind her was a screen. On the table beside her, a projector and laptop were waiting. There were only a few other teachers present, watching silently. Rhea gestured. The screen lit up. And then the video played. It was footage from the hallway, grainy, silent black, dash and dash white. It showed Sasha slapping Rhea. It showed Lila laughing. It showed everything. From a camera no one had ever noticed hidden inside the fire extinguisher case. The girls paled. "You recorded us," Sasha growled, her voice cracking. "I didn't," Rhea said calmly. "The school did. I just retrieved it." "You can't." "Oh, I can, and I will." The lights flickered. Rhea leaned over the microphone, her eyes never leaving theirs. "You wanted to humiliate me. You thought I was the same girl from before, but I'm not. I came prepared. I came with proof. And this," she pointed to the footage, "is just the beginning." "You're bluffing," Miriam muttered. "They won't do anything to us." "You're right," Rhea said softly. "They won't, but I will." Outside the auditorium, a silent crowd had gathered. The news had spread like wildfire. Someone whispered, "She's exposing them." Another said, "About time someone stood up to Sasha." The principal, frazzled and confused, had tried to step in, but Rhea had already sent an email to the school board with attachments. Video, reports, witness statements. The principal's hands were tied. Rhea stood calmly as the girls were escorted out of the auditorium. Faces flushed, stunned, silent. But it wasn't over, not even close. That evening, Rhea sat alone in her apartment. The slap still echoed in her ear, but it didn't hurt anymore. Her phone buzzed. A message. No name, just one line. "You have no idea what you've started." She stared at the message and smiled again. The game had just begun. The note slipped under her door. The envelope was thin. No name, no return address. Just slipped under Rhea's apartment door while she was boiling tea, barefoot and humming to herself, thinking maybe, just maybe, things were starting to shift. She stared at the envelope on the floor. It wasn't the message she'd received on her phone earlier. That had been digital, easy to dismiss. But this was real, tangible, personal. She bent down slowly and picked it up, a strange tightness forming in her chest. She didn't open it immediately. Instead, she turned off the stove, locked her door twice, and sat down at her small kitchen table. Then she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten in jagged block letters. "Ruin us, and we'll ruin you. You have 24 hours to resign." There was no signature, no name, no threat of violence. But somehow, that made it worse. It was calculated. The next morning, she walked into school with her head high and shoulders square, but something in her stomach felt unsettled. The school had changed overnight. Not the building, but the atmosphere. The way the students whispered, the way teachers avoided her eyes. Something was off. On the hallway, a group of juniors stepped aside for her, something that had never happened before. One even gave her a respectful nod. But when she reached the staff room, to teachers Mr. Harlan and Mrs. Dorsey, suddenly went quiet, mid-conversation. Mrs. Dorsey looked down at her mug. Mr. Harlan walked out. Rhea placed her bag down. Pretending not to notice, she pulled out her attendance sheets and class plan. But then her phone buzzed again. Blocked number. New message. "You should have stayed invisible." Rhea. She stared at it, her fingers freezing mid-air. The fear that had started as a whisper was growing now, crawling up her spine. Not from the students, from someone older, someone inside. That afternoon, she received an email. The subject line read, "Immediate meeting, 2:30 p.m. Principal's office." There was no body text. She walked there slowly, watching faces blur around her as students rushed out for lunch. Her heels echoed. As she reached the principal's door, she knocked twice. "Come in," a low voice said. Inside sat Principal Osum, and beside him, surprise, Mr. Marcus Elwood, the school board's senior investigator. She recognized him from the board's official website, stern-faced, known for neutrality. Rumor had it, he helped cover up a harassment case last year quietly. "Miss Zaman," Principal Osum began, folding his hands, "we've received some disturbing feedback regarding your conduct." She stayed standing. "From whom?" Mr. Elwood smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Several parents and a few students. Anonymous, of course. Claims that you're retaliating against students, violating classroom boundaries, humiliating them without cause, even threatening them." Rhea didn't blink. "You mean the students who slapped me in the hallway?" Osum flinched. Elwood leaned forward. "You did broadcast footage of minors to the school, Miss Zaman. You escalated a situation without board clearance." Escalated. Her voice rose for the first time. "I was assaulted. I showed evidence. I followed protocol." Elwood cut her off. "We're placing you on temporary leave pending a formal review." Silence. Rhea felt the breath leave her lungs. "You're suspending me." "Temporary," Elwood repeated smoothly. "You'll remain off campus for 7 school days. Please understand it's to ensure an unbiased investigation." She didn't answer, just stood still, heart pounding, but something in her snapped, not with fear, with clarity. This wasn't just a student vendetta. This was a network, protected, connected, rooted inside the system. She walked out of the office slowly, eyes blurred, her brain buzzing with rage and disbelief. Outside the door, someone was waiting. Rhea. It was Zara, former classmate. She hadn't seen since graduation. Now a junior staff assistant in admin. Rhea blinked. Zaira's eyes darted left and right. Then she handed Rhea a folded napkin. On it, scribbled in pen, "Meet me in room 307. After school. Come alone." At exactly 3:45 p.m., Rhea stepped into room 307. It was one of the older classrooms, used mostly for storage now. Dusty chairs, a broken whiteboard. Zaire was already inside. She locked the door behind Rhea. "I don't have much time," she said. "They'll fire me if they know I told you this." "Told me what?" Rhea asked. Still stunned. Zaira pulled out a yellow file folder from her tote bag. "There's a reason no one touches Sasha or her friends. Their parents aren't just rich, they're connected to donors and board members. Everything they've ever done gets buried." Rhea's eyes widened, including the slap. Zaira nodded. "They've covered worse. There was a girl, 3 years, Aguaisha. She filed a report after Sasha's gang locked her in a cleaning closet during finals week. The cameras weren't working that day. Aisha left the school within a month. No one's heard from her since." Rhea felt cold spread through her hands. "They think you're just another nobody," Zaira said. "But you scared them when you showed proof. That's why they're panicking. That's why Elwood's here." Rhea took the file. Inside were disciplinary slips, old complaints, witness statements, half-filed, never followed up, all connected to the same girls. It was a pattern, a cover-up, a quiet machine built on fear. Rhea closed the file slowly. "I'm going to burn them down," she said quietly. Zaira shook her head. "You can't do it alone." Rhea looked at her. "I won't have to." That night, Rhea made 3 phone calls. The first to her cousin Aiden, a freelance investigative journalist known for going after untouchables. The second to Aisha's older brother, who had once emailed the school demanding justice. And the third to an ex-student who now worked with a local anti-corruption NGO. Within hours, Rhea had a small, secret team. They began gathering every document, every testimony, every piece of digital proof, but they had no idea what Sasha's gang was planning next. 2 days into her suspension, Rhea received another message. This time, a video. It showed her standing outside a liquor store at night, innocently waiting for her Uber after visiting a friend. But the video had been edited, zoomed, cropped. A caption had been added. "Teacher caught drunk outside liquor store. Eastbridge's shame." Rhea's heart stopped. Beneath the video was a caption. "Send this to the school board or delete your complaint file. You choose." Rhea nearly dropped the phone. They weren't just trying to scare her now. They were framing her. But she didn't delete the file. Instead, she forwarded the video to her cousin Aiden, who replied almost instantly. "I have metadata. I'll prove it was edited. They're going to regret this." That same night, Aiden uploaded an article anonymously on a whistleblower platform with the title, "What's Hiding in Eastbridge High? A Teacher Suspended After Exposing Bullies." But the story goes deeper. The article included censored screenshots, timeline analysis, and hints of what was coming. Within hours, it started gaining traction online. But Rhea knew this wasn't the end. This was war. The next day, Principal Ossen held a meeting with the entire faculty. He looked pale, nervous, sweat gathered at his collar. "There will be an investigation," he said shakily. "We're cooperating with the school board fully. In the meantime, please maintain professionalism and avoid commenting publicly." But whispers had already begun. The staff room was divided, some silently rooting for Rhea, others protecting their jobs, and some clearly afraid. That evening, Rhea received another note, this time burnt at the edges, singed on purpose. One word was written on it: "Watch." Attached was a picture of her mother's house taken from across the street. Rhea's breath caught. Now it wasn't just about her job, her past, her revenge. Now it was about her family. Someone had crossed the line, and they were about to find out. So would she. The line they shouldn't have crossed. Rhea stood on the sidewalk outside her apartment, the burnt note clutched in her hand, her eyes locked on the photo of her mother's house. The same garden, same green gate, taken from across the street. Someone had been there. Watching. The note's message wasn't just a threat, it was a warning. They had followed her to where she was vulnerable, where love lived, where her mother, still recovering from surgery, rested alone most days. Rhea's hand shook as she grabbed her phone. Her cousin Aiden answered immediately. "They know where my mom lives," she said, voice tight. "They sent me a picture." Aiden swore under his breath. Send it to me, now. I'm moving her to my place tonight, Rhea said. I don't care if they watch, I want them to. 2 hours later, Rhea parked outside her mother's small home. She didn't tell her why, only said she missed her, and the doctor recommended more care. But her eyes never left the rearview mirror. She spotted it once, a black Corolla trailing a bit too perfectly. Same turns, same slow crawl. But as soon as she drove onto her own street, it vanished. Her mother, unaware, simply smiled as Rhea helped her into the apartment. I'm proud of you. You know, her mother whispered as Rhea tucked her into bed. Don't let them bend you. Rhea paused. I'm not going to bend, she said softly. I'm going to break them. That night, the apartment lights stayed on. Rhea barely slept. Instead, she worked. Her small team had grown quietly. Former students, one bold teacher from another campus, 2 journalists from a dean's circle, and now, a former IT staff member from Eastbridge. Each of them had stories. Each of them had reasons to bring the system down. By midnight, they had access to archived complaint records that had disappeared years ago. By 3 a.m., they had footage from hallway security cams, previously marked as corrupted, and what they found confirmed Rhea's worst fear. The slap video had been edited. Before being shown to the school board, they had removed the moment Sasha smirked after hitting her, and worse, added a slight time glitch to make it look like Rhea might have provoked it. It was a surgical lie, clean, cold, designed to erase context. Rhea stared at the footage in silence. Someone in it helped them, she muttered. Aiden nodded. We'll trace the edits. But Rhea, you need to be careful. This isn't just bullying, this is organized silencing. Rhea clenched her jaw. Then it's time I organize something louder. The next morning, Rhea met with a woman named Malika, retired school counselor, who had once worked at Eastbridge, but mysteriously left after only 1 year. They met at a quiet tea cafe downtown. Malika looked older now, but her eyes still had that spark. Zaira said, "You're brave," she said, sipping chai. "But bravery won't protect you from what Eastbridge hides." "I don't need protection," Rhea said. "I need truth." Malika slid a USB stick across the table. "Here's truth." Then, "What's on it?" "Audio recordings. I kept some from my time there. Conversations between the vice principal and a donor's assistant. They talked about how to bury incidents that could hurt donor trust, even threatened me when I tried to report it." Rhea took the USB like it was gold, because it was. That evening, she received another video from the Bullies, but this time, it was of her mother, taken that same morning, walking outside the pharmacy. The camera panned in close, almost like a documentary dot. Then a text appeared over the footage. "Your move." Rhea froze, her chest tightened. Her mother was too gentle, too trusting. She didn't even know these monsters existed. This wasn't schoolyard bullying anymore. This was psychological warfare, and they were getting desperate. That meant one thing: they were scared. Scared of how far Rhea had come, and that made Rhea smile. For the first time that day, the following night, she released her own move, with Ardine's help. She dropped a full-length expose on an underground journalist platform titled, "They Protect Bullies, Not Victims," inside Eastbridge High's silence machine. It had redacted emails between board members, whistleblower, audio clips, witness testimonies from past victims, proof of footage, edit in hand. The cherry on top, a timeline connecting Sasha's father to the school's largest annual donation within hours. It hit trending. Within 24 hours, it had 27,000 views, and that's when things exploded. Students began posting anonymously on social media, stories, screenshots, messages, #EAST, BRIDGE, exposed, started trending locally. Someone even leaked a chat, where Sasha bragged about breaking a student in 9th grade. So badly she stopped speaking in class for weeks. Then came the interviews. Aiden appeared on an online talk show, carefully skirting legal issues but hinting that more was coming. And Rhea, she sat beside her mother, holding her hand, watching it unfold. "I'm not afraid anymore," she whispered, but just as she leaned back, her phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't a video, it was a voice message. From an unknown number. She clicked it. At first it was silent, then a distorted voice whispered, "You want to burn us down? We'll burn first, with you inside." The next morning, Rhea's apartment window was shattered, not from the outside but the inside. A brick lay in the living room. Wrapped around it, a torn piece of paper. Tick-tock. She rushed to her mother's room, safe, still asleep, but Raya knew what this meant. This wasn't about warnings anymore. This was countdown mode. Later that day, she visited Principal Osen, unannounced. She walked right into his office. He nearly jumped. "I hope you're happy," he snapped. "Your little blog circus has thrown the entire school into chaos. The board is breathing down my neck." Raya set a folder on his desk. Inside is a signed petition. 48 students and 9 parents are backing me. Plus, I have enough evidence to take this to the local news. If I do that, you'll lose your job. Elwood will too. Hassan's eyes widened. "Are you threatening me?" "No," Raya said calmly. "I'm promising you. Either you call an emergency hearing with the board and let me present my evidence, or I go public with everything, including your emails about burying disruptions." Osen stared at her. Then nodded once. "You have 48 hours. That night, Sorsha's father posted a statement. He claimed Raya was manufacturing lies, that his daughter was a victim of a personal vendetta, and warned the public not to believe edited stories from unverified sources. But what he didn't know was that Raya wasn't done yet. She was just beginning." The next morning her phone buzzed again, but this time it was a FaceTime request. From a private ID, she answered, hesitating. The screen came alive, and for a brief moment, all Raya saw was darkness. Then a girl's face came into view. Pale, scared, hair tied back. "My name is Aisha," she said. "I saw the article. I want to talk." Raya's breath caught. The girl who vanished 3 years ago. Aisha. She wasn't gone. She was alive and ready to speak. The girl they tried to erase. The screen froze for a moment. Raya leaned closer, unsure if the connection had dropped. Then the girl's face came back into focus. "Aisha," Raya whispered. "Is it really you?" The girl nodded. Her voice trembled. "I've been watching everything. What you posted, what they did to you. I never thought anyone would fight back." Raya could barely breathe. Aisha was supposed to be gone, withdrawn, sent away, maybe worse. But here she was, alive, eyes haunted but determined. "I need to tell you what really happened," Aisha said, "before they find me again." They spoke for over an hour. Aisha had been a student at Eastbridge just 3 years earlier. Smart, quiet, obsessed with poetry and science. She had been a target of Sasha's group from her first week. What started as teasing turned brutal. Books, deleted assignments, rumors. Then came the prank that broke everything. They switched her seizure medication with antihistamines. She collapsed in the middle of class. Nobody helped. "They filmed it," Aisha said, her eyes filling. "And then they laughed. Called it the flop show. I begged the school to act. They didn't single quotes. Instead, they pressured her family to transfer her to a different district silently. No complaints, no questions. They offered to pay part of the tuition if we left," she said. "We needed money. My parents didn't want trouble." Aisha looked down. "I've never told anyone the full story, but if you're standing up to them, I want to stand with you." Raya sat in stunned silence after the call ended. This wasn't just about her anymore. It never was. It was about every girl they broke and buried. She saved the recording of Aisha's testimony and backed it up on 3 drives. Then she called. "Aiden, she's alive," she said. "She's ready to talk." His voice cracked. "Then it's time to make them listen." The next day, the school board reluctantly agreed to an emergency internal review, allowing Raya to present evidence. But the atmosphere was icy. The board sat stiffly behind a long table in the small conference hall. Osen looked pale. Elwood was absent. Sasha, surprisingly, stood at the back, arms folded, watching. Raya stood before them, palms sweaty but steady. "I came here to teach," she began. "Instead, I walked into a machine that crushes truth and protects power." She laid out proof of video tampering, screenshots from student group chats showing bullying patterns, the voice of Malika, the former counselor, testifying through a recorded statement, and finally, Aisha's face on screen when Aisha spoke. The room changed. Even the most defensive board members leaned in. "She could have died," Raya said when the video ended. "You didn't just ignore bullying. You erased it. You enabled it." A long silence followed. Then one board member, Ms. Iqbal, a retired headmistress, spoke up. "I believe her," she said. "And I believe you." Another murmured, "This has gone too far." But before a vote could be taken, Raya's phone buzzed violently in her pocket. A message. No name, no caption, just a photo. Her mother, slumped over in a chair, eyes closed. Rhea burst from the conference room. Aiden ran after her. She tried calling her mother. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. The image spun in her head. Her mother's body in that chair, limp, the curtains drawn. Was she asleep? Was it real? They reached the apartment in 12 minutes. The front door was locked. Rhea's hands trembled as she turned the key. She ran inside. Her mother was there, breathing, asleep, safe. A warm cup of tea sat untouched beside her, and beside that, a white envelope. Rhea opened it with shaking fingers. Inside was a printed message. Not today, but next time. We won't knock. Beneath it a note scribbled by hand. Call off the hearing, or we finish what we started. Rhea fell to her knees. This wasn't just about silencing her anymore. It was about breaking her mind, pushing her to the edge, making her choose between truth and safety. Later that night, she met with her team again. The debate raged. Stop now, one of the teachers begged. This is escalating. They're dangerous. They've always been dangerous, Rhea snapped. They just wore suits while doing it. But what if something happens to your mum? Aiden asked quietly. You've already exposed them. You've made your point. Is it worth the risk? Rhea looked around, at every face, every scar, then at her own hands. I didn't come this far to almost win, she said. I'm going to finish this. The next morning, Rhea posted again. Not an article, not a video, just one sentence. They threatened my family, so I'll expose everything now. She attached the full Aisha recording, the hospital record, Malika's audio, and then she dropped the final bomb. An anonymous whistleblower had sent her an internal memo, a conversation between the vice principal and Sasha's father discussing how to replace Rhea quietly before finals. It ended with this line: if she resists, we escalate. It went viral in under 2 hours. By afternoon, a national news channel picked up the story. The school board, cornered and exposed, held an emergency press briefing. Principal Orson resigned. An internal probe was launched. Elwood was suspended, and Sasha, she didn't come to school again. But Rhea knew it wasn't over. She sat outside the hospital where her mother had been quietly moved under protection now. Her phone buzzed again. A single message: check your email. She opened it. There was a file attachment named finallesson.mov. She hesitated, played it. The screen showed security cam footage inside Rhea's classroom. A man dressed like a cleaner slipping a small object into her desk drawer. A faint timer flashed. 4:59, 4:58. Rhea's blood ran cold. A bomb. No, too small. She zoomed in. It was a listening device. A bug. They had been tracking her every word, every plan, and they still might be. She smashed her phone against the concrete, then stared at the hospital gates. Tears filled her eyes, not from fear, but from the weight of how deep this all went. Rhea stood up. That there was one last person she needed to face. Sasha. If she wanted real closure, she had to meet her one-on-one and end this face-to-face. The Queen of Asha, Sasha, agreed to meet in private. No lawyers, no cameras, no backup, just the two of them. It was risky, maybe even stupid, but Rhea knew this wasn't a war she could finish with documents and press conferences. Not anymore. They met at an old garden behind the abandoned east wing of Eastbridge High. It used to be a botanical project. Now it was just weeds and dry soil. Fitting. Sasha stood under the rusted archway in her pristine blazer, like the ruins around her didn't apply. Rhea walked in slowly, no smile, no greeting. Only steel in her eyes. Sasha was the first to speak. So, you're proud of yourself, huh? No, Rhea said, stepping closer. Not yet. Not until you answer me one thing. She paused, looked her straight in the eye. Why did you do it? Sasha blinked. For a second, Rhea thought she might actually crack. But then the smirk returned. Because I could, she said. Rhea's jaw clenched. That's it. You think this place runs on fairness, morals. It runs on fear, reputation, legacy. Sasha circled her like a predator. My father built half this town. My mother funds half the scholarships here. You thought a few videos and a sad little blog would scare us. No, Rhea said. But truth has a way of spreading. Sasha laughed, cold and cruel. You still don't get it. You were never the story. You were a symbol. We made an example of you, so no one else tried to speak up. She took a step closer, and for a minute, you were actually doing well. You had them scared, until you made a mistake. Raya's heart kicked in her chest. What mistake? You trusted Aiden. The world stopped spinning. Raya stared at her, the air sucked from her lungs. You're lying. Sasha shrugged. He didn't mean to betray you. He just, cracked under pressure. We offered him a job. His dream role. Head of digital strategy at an NGO. My father funds. He said yes. No. Raya's voice was hoarse. He wouldn't. He gave us your plans, Sasha said, her voice soft now, almost sympathetic. Your passwords, your document drafts, the dates you'd post. We let you keep going just long enough to track everyone involved. That's how we got to Aisha. Raya's legs buckled. She gripped the bench beside her. Liar, she whispered. You're just trying to divide us. Sasha tilted her head. Then asked him. Raya didn't sleep. She couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adin smile, his texts, his loyalty. Was it all a lie? She didn't confront him right away. She tested him. She sent him a fake draft of her next post, one that mentioned a missing USB with new evidence. 2 hours later, someone broke into her apartment. Didn't steal anything, except the USB. That didn't exist. Her chest caved in. She called him. We need to talk. They met at the rooftop above. A quiet cafe. Raya didn't waste time. Did you betray me? Aiden froze. What are you talking about? Sasha told me everything. The job, the leaked files, the bug in my drawer. Was it you? Silence. The look on his face wasn't guilt, it was grief. I didn't mean to, he said. Raya took a step back. I never gave them anything critical, he added quickly. Just basics, schedules. They said it was for security. I thought if I played along, I could protect you. You thought wrong. They threatened my mother, Raya. She's sick. They said they'd cancel her insurance. Raya didn't want to hear more. You had a choice. You could have told me. We could have fought them together. He reached for her hand. She pulled away. You're no better than them. And she walked. Not because she wanted to, but because if she didn't, she'd fall to the ground and scream. The betrayal shattered her, but it also cleared her vision. She was alone now, truly, and that made her dangerous. She switched phones, cut ties, ghosted every contact, even Aisha, their own safety. She created a new identity online and prepped. One final post. A master leaked all documents, all files, all video proof. Every name, every dollar, every thread of corruption she'd traced back to Sasha's family. If they wanted war, she'd give them fire. On the morning of the school's 50th anniversary gala, Raya showed up uninvited, not in a dress, in a black suit, hair tied back, face unreadable. The school hall was filled with lights, photographers, and rich guests. Sasha's father was at the podium, giving a rehearsed speech about legacy, honor, and future. Raya slipped through the crowd and into the control booth. The media tech was one of the few staffers still loyal to her. You sure about this? He whispered. Do it. He hit the switch. The projector behind the stage flickered, and then it began. The audience gasped. First, the video of Aisha, then Malika's audio, then screenshots of board emails, bribes, cover-ups, signed off by Sasha's parents. Then came the real blow. Footage of Sasha, laughing as Aisha convulsed on the ground. A scream rang out. Guests stood, shouts. Chairs, scraping. Sasha's mother fainted. Security stormed the stage, but Raya wasn't there anymore. She had already vanished. The post dropped online 5 minutes later. #EASTBRIDGE. Exposed trended globally. Petitions launched. Probes reopened. Donations surged for victims. Within 48 hours, Sasha's father resigned from the city council. The school's private funding was frozen. A federal inquiry was announced. But Raya didn't watch it happen. She was on a train heading out of the city. No luggage. No phone. Just a single notebook in her hand. And tears streaming down her face. Not from sadness. From release. 3 days later, Aisha posted a photo of Raya's classroom door now empty. Locked. She captioned it. She didn't just teach English, she taught us to speak. And below it, someone had taped a note to the door, written in black ink. I didn't come here to survive them. I came here to outlive them. The letter she left behind 2 years later. The classroom still stood empty. The nameplate beside the door was faded. Ms. Raya Malik, once a forgotten substitute teacher, now a silent legend. People still whispered about what she did, how she exposed a dynasty. how she vanished before anyone could say thank you. No one had heard from her. Not Aisha, not the teachers, not even the reporters who tried to track her down. But one rainy afternoon, as Eastbridge High dismissed early for a storm, the principal found something odd. A plain brown envelope on her desk, no return address, just one word, read. Inside was a handwritten letter. It was from Rhea. To those who remember me, and to those who wish they didn't, I wasn't born brave. I was the quiet girl, the one who always raised her hand too late, the one who knew all the answers but never spoke loud enough. The world taught me early, silence keeps you safe, until it DOESN single quotes T. What happened at Eastbridge didn't break me. It revealed me. It showed me who I was and who I wasn't willing to be anymore. For a while, I wanted revenge. I wanted them to hurt like they hurt me. I burned bridges. I walked alone. I lost friends. I even lost the one person who said he'd never leave. And yes, that still hurts. But then, something happened. I didn't expect people stood up, not just online. In classrooms, in meetings, in courtrooms. He spoke, you fought. Isha started a healing circle for survivors. Malika's brother created a safe app for whistleblowers. Even that shy boy in the back, Rokalim, published an op-ed that made me cry. That's when I realized I wasn't the fire. I was just the match. You were the ones who turned the spark into a blaze. You were the ones who decided the silence had gone on long enough. And I had done what I came to do. So I left. Not because I was afraid, but because I was done being a character in their story. I wanted to write my own. Yes, Sasha was expelled. Her parents fell. Their legacy turned to ash. I didn't dance on their graves. I didn't need to, because karma doesn't wear a watch. But it always arrives on time. What mattered more were the students who stopped walking with their heads down, the teachers who finally filed complaints, the janitor who stopped pretending not to hear the crying in the locker room. You changed, we changed, and no one can take that away. So if you're reading this, and you're still hurting, if you're still waiting for someone to save you, let me say it clear, no one's coming. You are the one, you are the voice, you are the storm, you are the wildfire, and when you finally roar, they will listen. Yours, always. Rhea, the principal, placed the letter on her desk and cried for the first time in years. She didn't know what to do with it at first, so she made copies, posted them in every hallway. One by one, students stopped and read. No one vandalized it. No one tore it down. They stood quietly. Some cried, some whispered, a few just stared, but all of them felt it. Something real, something deep, something brave. Weeks later, Aisha got a message, an anonymous email, no name, no subject line, just a single line of text. They tried to end my story, but I turned the last page into a beginning. Attached was a photo, a mountain village, children in mismatched uniforms, and in the middle, a woman with a chalkboard, smiling, teaching hair longer now, skin darker from the sun. But it was her. Reya. Teaching in a forgotten village, miles away from cameras, news, or scandal. No headlines. No revenge. Just peace. The lesson that lasted. Eastridge changed forever. They revised their harassment policies, started peer council programs, introduced a memorial scholarship in Rhea's name, the rise from Fire Fund for students who spoke truth in dark places. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is, but it was better, and sometimes better is a revolution. Years later, someone would write a book about Rhea's story. The title, She Left Without Goodbye But Left Behind a War Cry. It hit bestseller lists, inspired protests, became a quiet anthem for the unheard. But Rhea never showed up for the fame. She never wrote back to the publishers, never accepted awards. She was too busy living, helping others find their voice. And that was the ending no one expected. Not a courtroom. Not a breakdown, not a grave, but a teacher in a quiet room, helping children write. Final words. On the last page of the book, they tried to erase me, but I turned myself into a story they'll never forget. The end.